man, you look at this team and it's not quite there, but it feels a little bit shades of like 98 and the dreaded ghost roster and, Rob Zamner and making it over Mark Messier and all that stuff, where maybe you overthink it a little bit.
Four Nation rosters were revealed yesterday. We talked about it on the stream, but we want to get in the weeds and really hammer through 4 questions for this Four Nations tournament. And to do that, let's bring in our friend, famous Canadian and senior writer for The Athletic. It's the great Sean McIndoe. Sean, how are you, man?
Famous Canadian?
I think so.
Look at that. It's right.
I got bad news for you guys.
Your name?
Who's this clean-shaven guy on the screen? What is this? Oh my God, that might be. Maybe that guy's famous.
I like Stub McIndoe. I like the little stubble you got going on.
This is giving up McIndoe right here.
Is it your
or am I working on a Four Nations beard for?
That's what I was going to say.
February, whenever the tournament is. February, I guess.
February, famously, it's Wednesday, February 12th through Thursday, February 20th. You know this.
Famously, yeah. So here's my question: why are we doing the rosters 2 months before?
You think you should do it like the night before?
Yes, absolutely.
Live reveal.
That's very Christmassy. We can open
live reveal.
Oh, I love that.
Live reveal would be incredible. Just introducing the rosters as they enter the ice.
You do it. What's my guy's name? Robert Downey Jr. style. Remember at the Comic-Con thing? You would know this before I would know this. And he takes off his mask and everyone's like,
Dr. Doom.
It's Eric it's Eric Carlson. God damn it. This team's going to lose.
Doing it like WWE style where each player has like an entrance would be
Do you remember
unbelievable.
At the when was it where there was like a Winter Classic and they announced the rosters for some tournament? I think it was the Olympics. Maybe it was the World Cup.
It was the 2010 Winter Classic because the big part of it was like, and Tim Thomas is going to be on Team USA. And we were all like, why wouldn't he?
But do you remember like they brought like there were players who had played in the game that like came back out. And I want to say it was James Van Mierdyk. Maybe Phil Kessel.
So this was the
and
Bruins
they came down and it was like a wrestling entrance. Like they were like coming back down and there was like weird music playing and everything. I think we should do it like we used to do it in the Canada Cup days where instead of having like a list and then you just submit it, they would get like 30 guys to come to a training camp and then they would cut guys. Like Mike Keenan would knock on Steve Yzerman's door at 6 a.m. and be like, get out. You didn't make the team. I think that's what we need to bring back. And if that means that we cancel vacations for a bunch of guys for my own entertainment, I'm willing to make that sacrifice.
Oh, the videos that would come out of guys having to cancel their Airbnbs, like that's become my new favorite NHL trend is when guys make the All-Star team and they're like, I can't go to Aruba. Fuck. But counter to your argument, like, why aren't we doing this later or closer to the tournament? I don't think I could put up with another week of projected rosters.
Yeah, that is a fair point. I might be saying that on behalf of a certain country. I'm not going to say which one, but that maybe needs another 2 months to find a goaltender. That
get a passport or something.
Could be somebody. Maybe work some passports.
Okay, so we want to do.
You got to be able to.
We have some kind of broad topics that we want to hit for the Four Nations rosters. And Sean, if you could throw up the Canada roster. Right now. One of them you just hit on, which is, as you look at the Canadian goaltenders, Jordan Binnington, Aiden Hill, and Sam Montembeault, is goaltending an actual problem for Canada? And part of that is also, who do you think ends up being the starter in the end?
Yes, it is a problem. And I say this as a guy who, if you had asked me even in the summer, I would have said people are making too big a deal out of the goaltending gap. Because you get 20, 25, 30 games in the season, somebody will emerge. Some Canadian goalie, maybe a guy we're not even thinking of, will be fantastic. He'll be in the Vezina conversation, and then that's your starter. You only need one. It'll be fine. It'll work itself out. And we're 25 games into the season, and it has not worked itself out to the point where Sam Montembeault's on this team. That's not a good sign.
Sam Montembeault's their best goalie this season, though.
By the numbers.
No, by the numbers, just by watching Canadians games. And granted, to be the best goalie of these three right now is you watch them and you say, well, that guy's not the problem. That is enough. Yep. And by the numbers, which his numbers should be way worse than, and I love this guy, friend of the show, his numbers should be so much worse than Adin Hill's. Adin Hill is playing on the Vegas Golden Knights. Right. The Vegas Golden Knights should have the puck the whole time. The Vegas Golden Knights have 2 awesome defensemen playing, like at least 2 awesome defensemen. So,
here's the thing that I'm curious about. Because of the goaltending situation, do you think that Canada made other roster decisions to protect goaltending? Like, are there guys on Canada's roster that would not be in that uniform come 4 Nations if they had a good goaltender?
It does look like they went with more of an emphasis on defense than you would expect, and then a lot of us expected based on those million rosters that we were all projecting out there. There's not as much offensive talent here. And yeah, maybe that's a case of compensating for the goaltending. Now, the flip side of that is you look at it and you go, man, we don't have Patrick Waugh. We don't have Martin Brodeur. We don't even have Curtis Joseph. We're going to get scored on. We're going to give up a couple of goals a game. So we got to get 3 to win. Who's going to get the 3 for us? And that's where you start to get a little worried when you look at the Team Canada roster. The Team Canada roster, and this is something that we've seen over the decades from the groups that put these teams together. It looks like a team that is designed to protect a 2-1 lead or a 3-2 lead with 10 minutes left in the third period. That always seems to be like the prototype of Canadian hockey. Who's going to block the shot? Who's going to clear it out? Who's going to cross-check a guy in front of the net to clear it out? And that's great if you're winning 3-2 with 10 minutes left. What if you're down a goal? That's going to be the question with Canada. And obviously that's a balance that you're always trying to figure out. But man, you look at this team and it's not quite there, but it feels a little bit shades of like 98 and the dreaded ghost roster and, Rob Zamner and making it over Mark Messier and all that stuff, where maybe you overthink it a little bit. And obviously that 98 team ended up running into Dominic Hasek and couldn't score. And the 6 grinders in the bottom 6 didn't help when they needed that 1 goal. Now, thankfully, Dominic Hasek isn't in this tournament, at least prime 1998 Dominic Hasek. But Team USA's got 3 guys who are maybe pretty close, and that worries me. Is that we're going to wind up in a situation where Canada doesn't win the tournament, and we're looking back going, yeah, well, they couldn't score because they left all these offensive guys at home.
1, Dominic Hasek is in this tournament. His name is Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. You can find him on the Finland roster. Let's see if he starts. Maybe. 2, I'm an Oilers fan. We're an Oilers heavy show, so we have Oilers people who interact with us. And one of the cries that we were getting, I say cry as a matter of fact, not to insult anybody, but one of the cries that we were getting was, how did Evan Bouchard not make this team? And all 3 of us were like,
the answer's pretty obvious.
Feel like you can't have Evan Bouchard on this team, not because it's no shot at Evan Bouchard, but just his style of play. You can't have oopsie daisies on the back end when you have oopsie daisies in net. It's just, you're forced to do that. So
you also
to answer
have
Pete's questions, you can have one of those guys, I think. So I think their roster construction defensively is like, I agree with that strategy, I guess.
And it's also, you mentioned USA and like how they are benefiting from the goaltending, but they also have some decisions that they made on the back end, seemingly for the bottom 6. Like, you leave off Tage Thompson, you leave off Cole Caufield. Like, do you think that there's potential that they regret that, or would you have made the same decision based off of just the roles that those players are going to play?
That's question number 2, but though, by the way, of the big 4, will USA regret veterans over talent?
I mean, both teams, you can really tell that there was heavy coach input. Like, these are coaching decisions. The coach is the guy who says, no, I want Colton Parayko over Evan Bouchard because I feel safer with him. And then the coach is the guy who says, no, I don't want Cole Caufield, even though he's close to leading the league in goals. I want somebody who's big and defensively reliable and all of that stuff. And yeah, I mean, could Team USA regret it? Absolutely. I mean, we're all kind of like, this tournament is sort of set up to get a USA Canada final, and fingers crossed that's what we get. Apologies to Sweden and Finland, but I mean, it's a North American tournament. This is the big game that they're they're looking for. And maybe we get that game, and maybe it's Canada-Russia 87, and we get a 6-5 classic. But the chances are these two teams meet, it's going to be 2-1. And whichever team loses is going to get hammered for not having enough offense, for leaving those offensive guys at home. And whichever team wins the 2-1 game, even if the winning goal just bounces off a skate or something, we'll all cheer them and say, you guys found the perfect balance. You did it exactly right.
Yeah,
that's the nature of hockey, right? I mean, we wait and see how the game turns out, and then suddenly we're all geniuses.
You have beautifully kind of connected the dots here to find what the discourse is going to be, because you are right. In both of these cases, in Canada's case, defensively, they chose safe over going for it. Definitely offensively for the Americans, they went safe over going for it. Such an easy one, though, is going to be Caufield and Tage Thompson being like, how do you, and I get like some of the guys they picked, some of the veterans had a little more size, but like who's got more size than Tage Thompson? That also, I think, is just kind of punishing streakiness. You also mentioned
pressure's on Brock Nelson to win like every faceoff he takes.
Oh yeah, great point. You also mentioned Jason Robertson yesterday.
Yeah,
like
no, like I have very little problem with.
I have no problem with it, but just not having that good a scorer. But if they're streaky, I mentioned it yesterday on our stream. If you watch the Olympics, Team USA basketball, Jason Tatum showed up. He was a little cold, and they were like, we're not going to take the time to figure that out. You're just not going to play this tournament. And that's what would happen to a Jason Robertson, or maybe even a Tage Thompson, more in the case of Robertson than Thompson. But yeah, this when these teams lose, as you said, we know what we're going to be saying.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll just tell you, as a Team Canada homer, I'm more worried about Jason Robertson or Cole Caufield or Tage Thompson than I am about Brock Nelson. You know, I'm not sitting there going like, oh no, Brock Nelson's on the ice now. Maybe I am when he helps shut down Connor McDavid. You know, there's everything we say about this has some serious, like, get it fed back to us in late February potential. But I mean, those are guys, and look, some of these guys also played themselves off the roster. You know, we all thought Evan Bouchard was going to make the Team Canada in the summer, because we figured he would take another step forward, and instead it feels like it's been a bit of a step back. But even that, it's like a weird mix, because they always tell us, like, we're going to take the guys who earn it, the guys who play themselves onto the team. And then you look at a guy like Cole Caufield. It's been fantastic this year. I mean, if he didn't play himself onto the team, was there really that opportunity? Or was this a case where, you know, 90% of the roster was already done in the summer and you're just plugging guys in who are healthy?
I'll tell you what, on McDavid, I'm not looking at USA. I'm not worried about USA taking Connor McDavid out of this tournament. If anybody takes Connor McDavid out of this tournament, I think it's Sweden.
Because of their defense?
Because of the defense that they have. Just, I mean, like, Anderson, Forsling, who's already done it.
Yeah, I mean, their defensive group is awesome.
Ekholm, who knows him.
I mean, off that defensive group, though, do you feel as weird as I do that we're in a place where, like, you see Erik Karlsson on the Swedish national team and you're like, is he going to play?
That's question 3.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because, I mean, he was one of the guys that was named to the team originally, and I don't think at the time it was that controversial. If he hadn't been, you wonder if, like, we would have had a really interesting discussion in the weeks leading up to this about, like, is Erik Karlsson even there? I think he plays. I think you see him on the power play. I think we very well may see some games where the last 5 minutes of the game, there's no Erik Karlsson out there. Certainly, if I'm protecting a lead, it's they've got plenty of other guys. You have to have a pretty good blue line to sit down Erik Karlsson, even at this age and where he's at in his career. Sweden does. They got a really good.
Do they run 7D then? Like, who do you take out?
So I was going to ask that, because the fourth question eventually is going to be about Finland's defense. But, like, you look at, just go 7D. Brodin, Anderson, Dahlin, Hedman, like, all of these guys are top pairing defensemen in the NHL. Oh, like, as I look at that,
quality-wise, yeah.
I think every single one of these defensemen, I could be wrong, plays on a top pairing in the NHL.
I don't think Brodin does.
Yeah, Brodin might be second pairing. But, like, you can just have him as a spare part that you didn't need in the first place if you want, and that probably should be their strategy.
That's an option, right? I mean, it's not like you're looking at this going, we absolutely have to get Gustav Nyquist into the game. Like there maybe is a potential to go 11-7 there. Yeah, that'll be
even
interesting
Arvidsson.
to see. Yeah. I mean, that is the thing with the, typically with the European teams, top heavy forwards, right? Where you've got, you look at that first line, hey, elite talent, absolutely. But we're not playing with line changes off here. So going 4 deep is where the North American teams start building that advantage. And you see it with Sweden as well. But man, that blue line, top to bottom, it might be the best one in the tournament.
Yeah, I think you go 7D if you are playing to your strengths. Put your best players on the ice, put your best players on the bench, whatever. And yeah, respectfully, a lot of those forwards, what was the thing that I said yesterday? Canada's goaltending, a question. Finland's defense, a question. Sweden's offense, a question. United States gun control, a question. So, like Sweden, the offense isn't terrible, but as you said, it's top heavy. So have your studs out there. And then, or maybe you just don't play Erik Karlsson at all. Do you leave him off the game day roster?
I don't know. I feel like
that would be so rude.
Yeah, I feel like this tournament doesn't matter enough in a big scheme where I don't think
to disgrace him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's just where I kind of land. But when we're talking about defense, I think everybody can agree that Finland's blue line is the most concerning and most troubling. But does what they have in net come close to making up for it? Like, are you worried that Finland is going to stand no chance based off of who they have on their blue line?
I would never say no chance, especially when it comes to Finland, because it just feels like, geez, in the decades that I've been doing this just as a fan, watching these best on best tournaments, you always want to write off Finland, and man, they are feisty. They always seem to be able to outkick their coverage a little bit as far as what your expectations are. The goaltending is good. The goaltending can paper over a lot of those issues on the blue line. If everybody is playing their best hockey, there's an argument that, hey, you'd rather have an elite goalie and a so-so blue line than the flip side of that, which is kind of what Canada's facing. That said, it's hockey. You never know what you're going to get with the goalie. I mean, pick whoever is the quote unquote worst goalie in this tournament. It's probably one of the Canadian guys. There's a good chance they have a 45 save shutout in them at some point. Why wouldn't they? It's hockey. You never know. And maybe that's a reason we should be less concerned about Canada. Maybe it's a reason to be even more concerned because, who knows what you're going to run into. But yeah, they will paper over a lot of those mistakes. I don't know if, again, top heavy up front. I don't know if there's enough skill there to outscore Team USA, Team Canada when push comes to shove. Without the goalie stealing it, that's probably the path to Finland getting to the final, to Finland potentially winning this thing, is having a few steals from a goaltender. They're not in bad shape to get that. They've got the right guys for that, and then you just sort of cross your fingers and hope it happens.
Let me ask you this based off of what you just said. If you could take, as a Canadian fan, take Finland's goaltenders, but you also have to trade your defenses, would you do it?
There's no chance. I can't, it's not like a keeper league where I can protect Cale Makar and
no, you got full swap. You got to take their entire blue line, and you got to take their entire.
Can I see that? Can I see the Finland defense one more time? Yeah, I don't.
And as you're looking at this,
quick, no.
As you're looking at this,
you know what? I forgot Hakanpää was on the team.
So as you're looking at this in Hakanpää, I went through the defensemen in this tournament, and Finland is the only team that most of their defensemen, or they have more bottom pairing and or not in the NHL defensemen than they do second pairing defensemen or top pairing defensemen. They have 2 top pairing defensemen currently in the NHL, technically,
both on the same team.
Oli Mata is playing on the first pair in Utah right now, and respectfully, no, not what that is.
That's not great. The thing with Hakanpää, I wonder, because this is how I would have done this if I had to make these teams 2 months before. I would have put injured guys on the team because, of course, if a guy's injured, you can swap him out. I said this half joking earlier this week. I would have put Carey Price as one of the Canadian goalies. There you go. Well, we got Carey Price. Oh, he's injured? Well, I guess a couple of days before the tournament, we'll just have to pick whoever's on a hot streak at the time. That would be my little dicey move. And I wonder if Finland was doing that, or if that's just the guys that they have. Man, we got to open up trading for this this tournament. Every team gets to make one trade. You're telling me, the Team Canada can't. Team Canada goes to Finland and says, all our forwards that didn't make this team, how many of those guys do you need before you'll give us a UC Saros?
Yeah, you know what they do? They should do a 5-card draw style thing where if you're unhappy with one of the spots on your roster, there is a pool of, let's say, X amount of players in the NHL who aren't on any of these teams right now.
Okay.
And
all right.
Spin a wheel. So if you say, all right, Canada, we don't want Jordan Binnington, we're sending him back. There is a pool of 52 goalies. What's that?
Transfer portal.
Yes, there's a pool of 52 goalies. You spin the wheel, and it's like, okay, well, you just got Jonas Korpisalo. Have fun.
Yeah, I mean,
and you have
thinking
to,
about it. I'm thinking the fact that it was 52, I was getting a little nervous because I had like visions of like Shesterkin or somebody like that.
Shesterkin's in that pool.
Also,
but, yeah, 52 of them. Yeah, that's
not to get problematic. Not to get problematic, but like there is a solution based off of what you just suggested of like picking an injured goalie. You could make sure one of the goalies that you did pick and you regretted was injured by the time the tournament started.
Now I got to look and see who Brad Marchand's playing like week before the tournament. Like if he's got to go in there. If they're playing Montreal, look out.
We all silly like the mayor.